I think it's very important to discuss how much Donald Trump wants to run and hide from Project 2025 and how the creators of Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation just say, you can't quit me. And so let's hear from sociopath and leader of the Heritage Foundation, the author of Project 2025, a terrible American, a terrible human being, Kevin Roberts.
There are millions of Americans who are very supportive of what President Trump wants to do, who in part are supportive because of what Project 2025 offers. They're very excited about the possibility for those areas where President Trump and Project 2025 significantly overlap. To almost quote President Trump verbatim, to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education.
Yeah, we're just so excited. We're so excited to eliminate the Department of Education. That's so breathtakingly out of touch with everyday Americans. This is a classic example of gaslighting.
Absolutely. And no one is better at gaslighting than the far right. Other than Kevin Roberts killing his neighbor's dog with a shovel, he is also the person that asked JD Vance to write the foreword for his book, knowing how unpopular the Project 2025 Heritage Foundation agenda that Trump and Vance are for. They've pushed the publishing date till after the election. But they gaslight us about all the things. Nobody wants pre-K education. Nobody wants abortion rights. I mean, these are things that Americans agree on in vast majority. And they're just sitting there acting like, Donald Trump, oh, well, everybody wanted Roe to be overturned and go back to the states. Really? Have you looked at the data, you stupid fat fuck?
Well, as he says there, Kevin Roberts talks about there's significant overlap. Like there's this significant overlap in the Trump agenda and the Project 2025 agenda. And I think he's spot on because Donald Trump doesn't care about policy.
No.
Donald Trump only cares about himself and the metrics surrounding him and his grievances, his many lawsuits, his many pending criminal charges. And I just think that they keep telling you and they keep showing you who they are. But here's what I think, Pumps. I think that the authors of Project 2025 and a couple of oligarchs named Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, they know that Trump is old,
yes,
but they know that he has the momentum behind him. And they know that Trump could potentially, I don't think so, I think Kamala's going to win, but potentially this race is too close. And they don't want to keep him in power forever. They will remove him.
Absolutely.
It won't be the Democrats that do the 25th Amendment. It will the call will come from within because they have positioned now a 40-year-old complete sociopath that is completely slick operator, has no backbone, and is 100% totally up for sale and a raving liar and a raving sociopath. Listen to this clip.
My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban.
Do you think it will be resolved nationally? That's Adrian's. He was very serious about it. He was like, it's going to be resolved nationally. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would like abortion to be illegal nationally.
He certainly would like for abortion to be illegal nationally. And his best friend, Kevin Roberts, wants it to be illegal nationally. They keep telling us and showing us who they are. And there are these Americans that I believe have morally twisted so much so that they are so inside this MAGA cult that they believe that they want a dictator, and they think it's what's best for them. And you have a lot of people that are lower income to middle class Americans that have bought into all of this propaganda, hook, line, and sinker, that are going to go out and vote against their financial well-being, their mental well-being, and their psychological well-being. And it is really something that is so alarming because I feel like something will happen and I think, well, this has got to be the end of it. And the needle barely moves. I read a statistic, and we've talked about this before, that 92% of all Trump voters, 2020 Trump voters, 92% are going to go and vote for him for the third time.
It's jaw-dropping, particularly after January 6th, when we saw what he did, when he incited an insurrection on the Capitol. We hear him at these rallies. He can't keep a clear sentence. He can't stay on topic. He doesn't have the self-discipline to talk about policies. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter and sharks and electrocution. He is not mentally competent, which makes him the most useful idiots for both the Russia President Vladimir Putin and the American oligarchs that think that they can control him. And he is not smart enough nor slick enough to stay on message, but JD Vance is. We saw that at the debate. He can pretend he has empathy. He can lie with a straight face. His blood pressure doesn't even raise. He comes off that he's empathetic, something Trump is incapable of doing. But we know, based on what JD Vance says away from the debate stage, what he believes in, how he feels about women, and it's all trickled down from the American oligarchs.
But I also think that when Trump does speak, he speaks in a very cruel manner about other human beings. And a lot of Americans, it's like they salivate for that. He throws that red meat when he demonizes immigrants, when he demonizes women, says that women should be, there has to be some sort of punishment for a woman that gets an abortion. When he talks about, we need to have this big purge where the police go apeshit bananas for an hour and they're just rabidly violent, which, by the way, is a play out of Hitler's playbook, and that would straighten everybody up. And he wants to bring back all these executions, and they like it. They like the cruelty, the recreational cruelty when he isn't talking about crazy shit. They like it when he says that. There are so many Americans that really think he's this badass tough guy and he's going to execute people and he's going to rough and bloody everybody up and do all these mass deportations and round people up. And it's terrifying to me to think that we live in a country with just driving down the road or walking down the street where people are like, yeah, that's what I want. They say I'm a patriot and I love America, but I also want a dictator and I want to round up people and, deport them and separate families and just all of this cruelty. And I think that the religious right has a big answer that they have to give the American public about how they've morphed into such a cruel party and have such a cruel leader. And then the guy who's on the bench, JD Vance, that's your guy? That's your bench player? And I think he's even more dangerous because at that point, the American public, Donald Trump has already trained them. We get to say what we want. We get to do what we want. You voted for me after January 6th, so the rule of law doesn't matter. And this is who I picked, and this is what you get. And I think that they will screw Trump over and ultimately the American public and the world. But for right now, we're dealing with Trump. And for the record, listener, I do think Kamala is going to win. I have to believe in the power of decency and that the majority of us have seen with our own eyes and heard with our own ears the cruelty and the anti-democratic rhetoric coming out of the right. But until then, it's important to discuss the family dynamics of the Trumps. And we have Melania Trump, she's trotting out her memoir.
Yes.
And so she's been on a little press tour. CNN invited her on, and her publisher came back that her speaking fee for the interview would be $250,000.
The gall.
And I just think if Michelle Obama or Douglas Emhoff was asked to go on Fox, and they said, yes, we'll do it, but the fee is $250,000. Could you imagine Sean Hannity?
No, we would have to put him on life support.
Could you imagine Laura Ingraham?
No.
Judge Janine or whatever. And Mr. Prissy himself, Jesse Waters. I mean, he would just absolutely hyperventilate. But she did go on Fox. I don't know if she was paid or not. And this is the kind of stuff that this woman says.
Wow, you were expecting it all. I did, because I saw how they treat him, how the media was against him. I think they are afraid of his strength. And he was leading this country with peace through strength.
Yeah.
His strength? This is a guy that could not shake his opponent's hand and say, good race. I mean, you have people that play football, tennis, soccer, basketball, and at the end of the game, you go and you tell the person that beat you, congratulations, good game. This is a guy that packed his toys up and ran like a baby after he threw a huge national temper tantrum, which has led him to a lot of criminal charges and investigations and put a stain on American democracy. And she has the gall to get on TV and say people are jealous of him because of his strength.
And to act like he is the victim of the media when he is the biggest instigator of hatefulness and cruelty. But the strength thing, I mean, I had to laugh out loud. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. He is the biggest titty baby to ever hit politics in the world, not just the United States. I mean, he is an insecure bully, full stop.
Not to mention how weak he is.
So weak.
When it comes to foreign policy. When you think about how obsequious he is to Viktor Orban, to Kim Jong-un, to Vladimir Putin, to Xi, he is so weak. I have never seen an American leader so weak on the global stage as I have Donald Trump. It is an embarrassment to all of the armed forces, to all of the people who fight hard for like global security. It is so weak how he kisses the ass and defends these just horrible dictators around the world. It's the weakest leadership I've ever seen. Not to mention, he's so thin-skinned that all Kamala Harris had to do was mention people leaving his rallies early. He cannot shut up about it. The narcissistic injury is so massive, he cannot let it go. I want to close with Melania's memoir, which she's been bizarrely, dropping those weird tweets and all this stuff.
Hostage videos, kind of like.
Yeah, it's finally going to be released. And in it, she comes out as fervently pro-choice.
Individual freedom is a fundamental principle that I safeguard. Without a doubt, there is no room for compromise when it comes to this essential right that all women possess from birth: individual freedom. What does my body, my choice really mean?
What planet are we living on?
Here's the deal. Too little, too late, but she hates his fucking guts. That's just the bottom line I get from that. I'm sorry that's not on point, but I just had to say it. I just couldn't help myself.
But does she hate him when she's doing all of these interviews defending him because he's such a tough guy and everybody's jealous of him? Like, this is the thing with them where they say everything's transactional. Right now, she knows that her husband has a problem with female voters. That's why in the clip earlier, JD Vance says, I'm not for a national abortion ban, because they know that every time that's been on the ballot since Roe was overturned, they've gotten their asses beaten. So all of a sudden, Melania trots out her memoir, and in the final stages, right before it's dropped, she comes out as fervently pro-choice, and this is a fundamental right that has to be protected. Well, how transactional is that? She's had 9 years to go on the record. 9 years. She didn't say one thing after her husband, when he was interviewed by Chris Matthews, said, do you think that women should be criminally charged if they have an abortion? And Trump says, yes, there should be some form of punishment. Crickets from Melania then, crickets from Ivanka, crickets from all of these Republican women. And now she wants to trot this out. Why? Because she wants to get some female voters back whose husbands say, look, honey, it's better for our taxes if you vote for Trump. And she's like, well, you don't know this, but I took Sally to get an abortion last weekend, so I want that to still be legal. And she hears Melania say that. Can that help with suburban women? I think it's a transactional move. I think it's totally staged. I think it's total bullshit. She doesn't give a shit if abortion is legal or illegal, because the Ivankas, the Melanias, and people of that income status will always find access to abortion care. It's just the poor women that don't get access to abortion care.
No, I completely agree with the point that she's transactional. And I hadn't thought about her trying to help him with women voters, because I just think how much the MAGA right is going to come after her. But at the end of the day, you are 100% right. That entire family, parents to children, transactional, which is unimaginable, but that's how they roll.
I just cannot believe that she lives in a place and is surrounded by a team that says, here's what we're going to do, Melania. You're going to release a memoir, and then we're going to start dropping hostage-style videos on Twitter, a slow drip, where you look like you're completely insane and unhinged, and everybody's going to love it. It's like something out of a film. I just can't believe that is a real former first lady that is surrounded by people, and nobody says, hey, Melania, I think you should sit out this Roe v. Wade thing.
Yeah. Is it just in the bubble so much and they only hear what they want to hear that they don't understand how it's going to sound to a broader group of people?
I think they are the chosen ones. And I think their followers tell them, like, you only Trump can do this. I mean, I think they are exceptional because they're so strong and so patriotic and so great.
And so pretty.
So rich and so popular.
Have gold toilets.
I hate them.
It reminds me of the jacket she wore to the border where children were in cages that said, I don't care. Do you?
What about the video? I mean, the tape where she says, I don't give a fuck about the Christmas. But again, it's this upside down world,
right,
that they live in, where the rules apply to everybody except for the Trumps. And hopefully on November 5th, they find out the rules exclusively are going to apply to him. And then I hope Kamala Harris appoints the meanest, most law and order attorney general this country has ever seen, and sticks it to the guy who tried to overturn a free and fair election, because it needs to be reconciled.
Absolutely agree.
All right, stick with us.
It's so